Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Hey, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. Book reviews. I've been making them since September 2013. So I suppose this September, a few months away, will be the completion of 5 years. This is another book to review, series number 206. I've been talking about a lot of crazy things, so I thought I may as well talk about this. The philosophy of natural magic. The philosophy of natural magic. What is natural magic? Henry Cornelius Agrippa. Who is he? Is magic real? What do you believe? Do aliens exist? Did they really create mankind? Are you buying that? Is Christianity outdated, no longer needed or wanted? Do you believe that? Should President Donald Trump continue to support Jerusalem as the capital of Israel? Is that important? Does Israel and other people belonging to some secret mystery religion, do they desire to rebuild King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem? Do you believe that's true? Do you think that's important? Lots of questions. So I thought I'd read about this because I keep coming to the conclusion that what happens in the material world, the physical world you see around me, you see around yourself, is connected to the spiritual world, the invisible reality, behind the veil, some people say. All these terms, all these words. So apparently the invisible world does interact with the visible world. The spiritual realm does interact with the physical, materialistic realm. And that's part of the religion of the secret societies. That's part of the religion of people into the Kabbalah. The foundation or associated with the secret society, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, sorcery, witchcraft, Rosicrucianism, and some people put comments on my videos and say, don't connect the Freemasons with the Rosicrucians. All you got to do is look at the symbols. The Theophist Society symbols, the Illuminati symbols, the Freemasonic symbols, the Rosicrucian symbols, the Kabbalah symbols, even the flag for Israel, the six-pointed star. There's no denying it. Then you have to ask yourself some serious questions. Why is there an obelisk in our city parks and downtown squares? Everywhere. In front of the Capitol building, the Washington Monument is a huge obelisk. In front of the Vatican. Big obelisk in front of the pyramids, near the Great Sphinx and the three pyramids. So what is this phallic symbol? Why is there an all-seeing eye on the dollar bill with rays like the sun's rays behind it, on top of a pyramid? Why? Why is there a little owl perched on the front of the dollar bill on one of the ones? Why? So I believe we can say, I can in my research, that natural magic is part of magic. Is part of the invisible reality. Apparently, there are groups of people that can communicate with beings, demons, angels, elementals, and other beings, and they have a belief, a philosophy of the creation of the world and how and what the world is derived from. and what it will return to. So this is important. And these folks into these mystery religions are intent on destroying Christianity. This is all verifiable. So I was reading this for the past week, and I thought, well, I'll make a video. I don't think it'll be over people's heads. I think they'll be able to come to grips with some of it. I noticed that if I keep delving into these topics, I pick up a little tidbit here, a little tidbit there, I gain a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more understanding. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find out what is behind these evil forces bent on globalism. In the meantime, trying to blame we the people, the general population, to be the causes of all the unrest and problems in the world. Meanwhile, they're bringing and causing all the unrest and problems in the world while they're blaming it on us. Just like with the Federal Reserve, the United States banking system, which these members of the Illuminati, banksters, Zionists, and other elitists with these mystery religion organization, Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Knights of the Malta, Knights of the Garter, Club of Rome, and so many more, thousands of these things, including the Rainbow Coalition and all the New Age material. So it is a fascinating topic to try to understand, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say that if we have enough conversations and we look at it and we look at enough books, we can get an understanding of it. And you can't really make any decisions about what you think until you do have some understanding. So let me just read a little bit from the index here. This famous treatise by the celebrated Henry Cornelius Agrippa, 1486 to 1535, was one of the first works to popularize what is now known as white magic. So obviously, a lot of people understand the difference between white magic and black magic. Agrippa was a good Catholic, and his book was written within the framework of his Christian faith. In spite of the nightmare witchcraft persecutions of his time, he was not tried for witchcraft. His great teacher in the magical sciences was the good abbot John Trihenius of Herbipolis, and the correspondence between Trithimus and Agrippa is reproduced in this work. So I've gone over the Theophist Society, Helena Blavatsky, and so much other sources of this mystery religion. So I thought it might behoove us to look at this particular material. Agrippa's great system of magic was compiled in 3 books of occult philosophy. Originally written in Latin, it was the fashion of those times for such treatises. The present work is a compilation of these books. Agrippa's philosophy of natural magic gives a colorful presentation of the Neoplatonism, Kabbalah, fragments of Oriental magic, which formed the body of the magical sciences of alchemy, astrology, and occult in medieval Europe. His work had considerable influence in his own and in later times. His reconciliation between magic and Christian theology made it possible for the occult to be studied discreetly without heresy. Many writers on magic have been influenced by his work. It is an essential part of any modern library on occultism and provides a complete digest of the occult philosophy of 16th and 17th century Europe. So the 1500s and 1600s. So I've been reading it and some of the other books by this particular publisher. I think this is kind of important. The Geography of Witchcraft by Summers. Azuth, The Star in the East by A.E. Waite. Possession by T.K. Osterich. Timeless Earth, P. Colosso. The Holy Kabbalah, a study of the secret tradition in Israel. There you go. I'm not pointing out Israel. It's on the back of this book. The study of the secret tradition of Israel by A.E. Waite. Cosmic consciousness. Wow, some topics that are popular today. R.M. Buke. The Vampire in Europe, Summers. The A.R. Orage Memoir, Philip Merrick. The Kabbalah, Adolf Frank. The Magnus, Francis Barrett. The Universal Meaning of the Kabbalah, Leo Shala. The Book of the Dead, E.A. Wallace Bulge. The Occult Sciences, A.E. Waite. And The Werewolf, Montague Summers. Wow, there's some interesting topics by the publisher University Books. And this particular book was published 1974, but it was originally published got some interesting pictures here. Well, all I see is 1974. But look at these pictures. There's the symbol for the globe with the wings, which they've used for Nibiru, Planet X. Also a symbol used for Isis. And here they have a cross made out of little stars. This work of occult philosophy, or natural magic, by that pure mystic thinker and a teacher, scholar, statesman, philosopher, and author, Henry Cornelius Agrippa, was brought forth by him through slander, edict, and enemies, and opposed. He lived, toiled, and triumphed in this cause. To those who have a love for the truth and mystic art, this new edition is dedicated. And here we have a weird looking picture. A star with rays behind it, with what appears to be angels all over the place. So I've been reading, and if you watch my videos, you know what I do. I read and highlight. I pick some particular chapter or parts of a book and read directly from it. I don't have to read it all. What I highlight, maybe a little more or less. And I have my commentary. The idea is we just have a frank conversation about things. And about things that most of us are unaware. So hopefully and theoretically that we can come to an understanding to help us better understand the reality in which we live, and the attempts by certain elitist mystery school adherents, members, groups, lodges, cults for a new world order and a global world order, which in my opinion is a very malevolent endeavor, a very sinister endeavor. That's some powerful words. And they're causing a lot of pain and suffering. 9/11, for example. World War I, World War II, previous examples. But 9/11 opened the door for the almost complete destruction of most of the countries in the Middle East, killing off a huge portion of the populations and probably putting in place puppet leadership and a depopulation of the area because of such difficult, hard times and bombings and shootings and destruction. The people from all those Middle East countries are fleeing, and they're fleeing into Europe, and it's being orchestrated. They're being flown into the United States. And I'm confident they're being filtered into countries all over the world, Central America, South America. And it's all intentional, and it is causing pain and suffering and disruption. And there's a reason for that. You don't want people who are devout Christians or nationalistic. You have to dilute, and the only way to dilute is to add more into it, and also cause distractions and intentional propaganda to destroy the existing beliefs of the time, i.e. Christianity. You know, it wasn't more than 10 years ago, it was unheard of that gay marriage would have ever been accepted by the people of the world, or ever be accepted that Jerusalem would be recognized by the United States, according to President Donald Trump, as the capital of Israel. And I just wonder who gave him the right to make that kind of a decision, something the Zionists and people who want to rebuild King Solomon's temple, these Jewish utopians, something they have worked long and hard for hundreds and hundreds of years. Think about it. This is no small thing. They've accomplished that goal. And it took World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much more. Assassinations of different presidents. Heck, President John Kennedy said in his famous speech, secret societies are repugnant to the American way of life, and I intend to expose it. Then later on, he's assassinated at Delaney Plaza, a Freemasonic plaza. Who would have thought that? With an obelisk. The topic I've selected from this book to start out with is an exposition on the Kabbalah. I've mentioned the Kabbalah a lot. Now remember, Henry Cornelius Agrippa was a good Christian, and he seems to reference white magic, white Kabbalah. The people who control our world today apparently are into black magic, the black Kabbalah. They even swear under oath, a lot of people know this, like the Freemasons, under threat of death, to not divulge the secrets or the goings-on to the rest of us. They even have a name for us. They call us the profane, the uninitiated. And the Kabbalist Zionists, many Jewish people, not all of them, call non-Jews goy or goyim, which means cattle. They think that we're lesser beings with lesser souls or no souls, and that we were put on this earth to serve them. And everybody's heard the term making a deal with the devil, or signing a pact with the devil in blood, and he promises to give somebody everything. It only cost you your soul. Black magic. Angels, good angels, fallen angels, evil angels, what are they? Apparently they're spiritual beings. And can they manifest in this world? According to my psychic research, if they're called into this world, there's several sources by which they can draw from the physical realm to create some kind of phantasm body. One of it is freshly spilled blood. Another it is the essence or the plasma from the channeler, the medium, or the psychic themselves when they're in these rituals. And another one is when they sacrifice a human, they have the spiritual essence to draw on, and of course the sacrificed victim's blood and all that. I'm sure people don't want to think about this, but it is going on. You can go on YouTube videos and buy books, and there's just too many weird examples of a lot of these satanic rituals taking place every day. Whistleblowers, or people who know from the inside about people into witchcraft driving around in vans, slowly driving down the street, looking for a victim to abduct for a sacrificed ritual. People from the Illuminati talking about these rituals, and other organizations. I know it's bizarre and it's insane, but I do not think ignorance would be bliss. I think waking up and seeing that there's this planned globalism, New World Order, New Age event involving some kind of catastrophe or disaster, declaring martial law, bringing about a New World Order controlled by artificial intelligence from a vast computer system with transmitters and receivers every 1 mile or a half mile, every rooftop, every cell phone, every refrigerator, every car, all components of this beast system. You can look up these words, beast system. You'll find the evidence. But I guess it all starts with some basic understanding of what is real, what is our reality. Are we spiritual beings in these biological bodies? It is, as the New Age people say, and the channelers, the entities channeling through somebody, is it as they say that Christianity is outdated, it's no longer needed, humanity needs to ascend, it needs to evolve, needs to be more liberal, needs to be more progressive. You've heard the words. Look at some of the posters on the post in your downtown city sidewalks about the events that are taking place. It's making people out to be zombies, monsters, creatures, like Pokemon chips that they gave kids 20 years ago or more. You think that was just a coincidence? It's all about consciousness. Exposition of the Kabbalah. Mainly, this is page 234, mainly upon what was said and written about Cornelius Agrippa in the 23rd year of his age, has been founded on the defamation by which, when he lived, his spirit was tormented and the hope of his existence miserably frustrated, by which, now that he is dead, his character comes down to us defiled. This victim, at least, has not escaped the vengeance of the monks, and his crime was that he studied vigorously in the salad days those curiosities of learning into which at the same time popes and bishops and philosophers, mature of years, inquired with equal faith and almost equal relish, but less energy and courage. So behind the scenes, the popes and bishops and all these other elites are studying magic. For a clear understanding of the ground and of the perils of the ground now taken by Cornelius Agrippa, little more is necessary than a clear notion of what was signified by Ronchelin's book on the Mirific Word. The Mirific Word, and a book written by Roncheler. So the Mirific, sounds like horrific, word. So apparently certain words are like keys to this other dimension. The pronunciation of the words has to be precise, has to be very vocal, and apparently it's some kind of geometry. As we all know, when I say a word like abracadabra, if you look on an oscilloscope, something that shows you what the sound frequency looks like, you can see it has a pattern. Every time if you say it exactly the same, abracadabra, it'll have the same voice print if you look at it. So this is called evocations, mantras, magic. So there's something called a Mirific Word, And apparently certain words can be used to summon certain angels, demons. And generally speaking, if you don't know what you're doing, according to my research and my basic, simple understanding, if you are not protected, and witches get protected by drawing a circle and a star, so that when the being is summoned and does come into the circle, the witch can control the demon. If you, apparently, according to my reading this book and others, if you summon these beings and you're not in a protected circle and have knowledge and know how to protect yourself, the demonic being, spiritual entity, fallen angel, whatever you want to call it, can and likely will destroy you. So that's what the mirific word is. So there's these certain words. But what has to be said of Reuchlin and his book, as well as of other matters that will hereafter concern the fortunes of Cornelius, requires some previous attention to the subject pretty well forgotten in these days by a people rich in other knowledge. We must recall, in fact, some of the main points of the Kabbalah. And in the Encyclopedia Judaica, it does say that the historic religious culture of the Jews was generally the Kabbalah. I've gone over that in videos I've made. This account of the Kabbalah is derived from German sources, among which the chief are Brucker's Historica Philosophia and the Kabbalah Data, looks like some French words, a collection, or German words, a collection of old Kabbalistic writings arranged and explained by Christian Noor von Rosenroth. Just love these names. The traditions or Kabbalah of the Jews are contained in sundry books written by Hebrew rabbis and consist of a strange mixture of fable and philosophy, varying on a good many points, but all adhering with sufficient accuracy to one scheme of the doctrine. So there is a doctrine. And I suspect this is the same thing as Helena Blavatsky's secret doctrine. Isis Unveiled. And so much more. I suppose if you bought a book on witchcraft, a lot of the information would be the same, similar. It's as it says right here, and it mentions historically the Jews and Hebrew rabbis. So where did Moses get his magical powers? Some say that the first Kabbalah were received by Adam from the angel Raziel, who gave him either while he yet remained in paradise, or else at the time of his expulsion, to console and help him, a book full of divine wisdom. In this book were the secrets of nature. Wouldn't you like to know the secrets of nature? And by knowledge of them, Adam entered into conversation with the sun and moon, knew how to summon good and evil spirits, to interpret dreams, foretell events, to heal and to destroy. Oh my. This book, handed down from father to son, came into Solomon's possession. And I've mentioned King Solomon many times where he got his power. He had a 6-pointed ring with which he could call forth demons. It sounds like what I'm talking about in this book. And they want to rebuild King Solomon's temple. Wow, yet another clue to what's going on. An obelisk in all our city squares. What's going on? The 6-pointed star on the Israeli flag. What's going on? And by its aid, Solomon became master of many potent secrets. Remember, they want to rebuild King Solomon's temple in Israel, which is in Jerusalem under the Dome of the Rock, the Muslims' most holy site. You think 9/11 was just a coincidence? President Donald Trump recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel is just a coincidence? All the preparations, FEMA camps, Microchipping children, just a coincidence? Think again. A Kabbalistic volume called the Book of Raziel was, in the Middle Ages, sometimes to be seen among the Jews. So somebody said to me, Rick, I notice your video, you talk a lot about the Jews. What do the Jews have to do with the Freemasons? And what do they have to do with this? And what do they have to do with that? And my simple defense is, no matter what I'm reading, the philosophy of the natural magic, it says Jews. It's mentioning King Solomon's temple. It's mentioning what's going on right now in the world. Remember, with the 9/11 event, they were able to pull off an attack on most of the countries in the Middle East, from Tunisia, Afghanistan, Egypt. Destroy the Palestinians' land, confiscate more of their properties, and pull off some other destructions. When Russia wouldn't go along, they toppled the president in the Ukraine. And now, with some of the things going on in the world today, it looks like they want to bring us a worldwide revolution, a battle between people who will have to choose sides. One side will be these fallen angels, Satan and his gang, and the other side will stick with God and Jesus and his followers. It's what it seems. And the Jews are involved, and not all Jews. There's some Jews all over the world that are just normal citizens. But I was wondering this morning, what makes them a Jew? Is it the DNA? And the answer to that is no. So what makes a person a Jew? I know what makes a person a Christian is a follower of Jesus. So if they're sticking with the Old Testament and that philosophy, and they think that God in the box of the Ark of the Covenant, apparently some Kabbalistic thing, told them that they're the chosen people, just me thinking aloud here, so some entity in the box with the cherubim on top, the box used to go crazy and they took it into battle to destroy all their enemies. What are we dealing with? The Kabbalah. Natural magic. Another account said that the first Kabbalistic book was the Sefer Jezerah, written by Abraham. But the most prevalent opinion was that when the written law was given on Mount Sinai to Moses, here's Moses in the picture, and this law given to Moses, was this burning bush or glowing light, also told him how to build the box to house the entity, the Ark of the Covenant, made out of gold with a certain dimension geometry. The Kabbalah, or mysterious interpretations of it, was taught to him also. Then Moses, it was said, when he descended from the mountain, entered Aaron's tent, and taught him also the secret powers of the written word. And Aaron, having been instructed, placed himself at the right hand of Moses, and stood by while his sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, who had been called into the tent, received the same instructions. So they're all given instructions and passing it on about the Kabbalah. Now you know a little bit about what all these mystery religions are and all these secret temples and lodges and groups everywhere. On the right and left of Moses, Aaron then set Ithamar and Eleazar. When the 70 elders of the Shahedrin were called in and taught, so they're just expanding this knowledge, taught the knowledge. And like I said before, making these videos, not only is it important for me to share the information with people, I'm not doing an audiobook, I'm just reading a few pages, but also it does help me continue to have a clearer focus on this stuff. What are we to believe? Are we spiritual beings? I keep asking that. Not that I doubt it, but I just wonder how many people are confident in the fact of what they really are. Some people think they're just human beings, that were born, just an accident, could have been anything. They could have been a rat, they could have been a kangaroo, they don't have a soul. When they die, they're gone. But that doesn't explain a lot of things. But it does explain the fact that the elites who control our world want people to believe that, want people to not pray and believe. What kind of power are they trying to keep from we the people? The elders finally were seated that they might be present when all those among the common people who desired to learn came to be told these mysteries. Thus the elect of the common people heard but once what the Sanhedrin heard twice, and the sons of Aaron 3 times, and Aaron 4 times, repeated of the secrets that had been made known to Moses by the voice of the Most High. So is it the knowledge of this Kabbalah, this mystery religion, these secrets? It uses the word secrets right here. The secrets that had been made known to Moses by the voice of the Most High. So these secrets, this is a religion. Is this what makes a person a Jewish person? So our people who are descendants of Jewish parents who do not know the secrets, are they still Jewish people? And how sincere or strong are they in their faith? I know that in Israel, any Jewish person anywhere in the world can immigrate there if they can prove they're Jewish, pure Jewish. And they're encouraging it. They've been encouraging people to move to Israel for over 100 years. It's called Aliyah. Please go look into Aliyah. And you can go on Yahoo image site and see in the 1920s and 30s ships and trains and bringing us World War I and World War II was a mass exodus of Jewish people in all those war-torn zones to build the population in the Middle East and Israel. And those were part of the plans. And they had to bring about anti-Semitism intentionally to make it uncomfortable for Jewish people all over the world, and there's plenty of documentation to prove that. This is a plan, and it's no small plan, and they're not about to cease and desist today or tomorrow. Apparently they're fulfilling it, like President Donald Trump announcing the USA recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. That was no small thing. Just like all the other things that are going on right now in the news, you can believe what they're saying and repeating and promoting. It's not going to be good for the rest of us, like what they're talking about, a soft revolution. When does it turn into a vicious revolt and a certain people are told to kill the other people? The non-Christians are told to kill all the Christians because they refuse to change and be progressive and liberal and stick to their beliefs, which makes them haters. Just saying. Of this mystical interpretation of the scripture, no person sat down any account in writing unless it was Esdras, but some Jews doubt whether he did. Israelis kept it the knowledge of the doctrine by the pure tradition, but about 50 years after the destruction of Jerusalem, Agrippa, a great rabbi, wrote the chief part of it in that book, the Sefer Jezereth, or the Book of Creation, which was foolishly ascribed by a few to Abraham. A disciple of Rabbi Akiba was Rabbi Simeon ben Jochan, who wrote more of the tradition in a book called the Zohar. That's another one of those books like the Talmud, the Kabbalah. So it's a little bit about this natural magic, which you can call sorcery, witchcraft, especially when used for evil, for control, for gain, to kill other people, the opposition, to control people, enslave people. People don't want to believe this. The truth probably is that the literature of Kabbalah, which is full of suggestion derived from the Neoplatonics of Alexandria, began with the Jews of Alexandria under the first Ptolemies. In the book of Simon ben Sechat, it went to Palestine, where at first it was little heeded, but after the destruction of the Jerusalem, it gained importance, and then rabbis Akiba and Simeon ben Jochai extended it. It is indisputable that Aristotle had been studied by the writer of the Sefer Jezereth, the oldest known book of the Kabbalist. The Kabbalah went afterwards with other learning to Spain, and that part of it, at least, which deals with Hebrew anagrams, cannot be traced to a time earlier than the 11th century, 1000 AD. Many rabbis, Abraham ben David, Sadia, Moses, Botriel, Moses bar Nachman, Eliezer of Garmiza, and others have written Hebrew books for the purpose of interpreting the system of the Kabbalah, natural magic. But it was, perhaps not before the 8th century, that it had come to receive very general attention of the Jews. So it had come to receive general attention of the Jews, magic. The Kabbalah consisted of two portions, the symbolical and the real. The symbolical Kabbalah being the means by which the doctrines of the real Kabbalah were elucidated. In the Hebrew text of the Scriptures, it was said that there is not only an evident, but there is also a latent meaning, and in its latent meaning are contained the mysteries of God and of the universe. It need scarcely be said that a belief in secret wisdom has for ages been inherent in the Oriental mind and in the Scriptures. It was reasoned by the later Jews, all wisdom must be of necessity contained. Maybe I should read that again. It was reasoned by the later Jews, all wisdom must be of necessity contained. And it was the Kabbalist Jewish people, according to my research, and the symbolism proves it, that these are the people who created the Freemasonic societies, Illuminati, and the secret mystery school organizations, Rosicrucians. And they, as it says in this book, they had to contain the knowledge of divine authorship. They cannot be like ordinary works of men, but if they were taken only in the natural sense, might it not be said that many human works contain marvels not less surprising and morality as pure? No. So the people who learned this Kabbalistic magical system, the ability to control angels or demons to bid their commands, were they moral and pure? And of course, we all know the answer is no. It was said, as we have entertained angels and regarded them as men, so we may entertain the words of the Most High, if we regard only their apparent sense and not their spiritual mystery. And so it was that, through a blind excess of reverence, the inspired writings were put to superstitious use. And remember, if you doubt any of this, go online and look up Stephen Greer of Serious Disclosure, the Alien and UFO Disclosure Project, and see that he sent me some emails because I was, I guess, subscribed to some of his material, and, with advertisements about having events at parks and beaches, and they would do invocations and call into being some kind of entities. This is going on. What about the putting up an archway of Baal in New York and London? Later on, I found out they wanted to put up an archway, 1,000 of them in 1,000 different cities, financed by the United Nations. This is no small thing, I keep saying. It has everything to do with chemtrailing and HARP transmitters and cell phone towers and artificial intelligence and so much more. Somebody is going to enslave the peoples of the planet, the ones who are left alive. Right out of some kind of Mad Max movie or Hunger Games movie. That's why they're making the movies. The modes of examining their letters, words, and sentences for hidden meaning, in which wholly consisted the symbolic Kabbalah, were three, and these were called Dramantia, Netokron, and Thermuria. Dramantia is adding up letters of your name or whatever to come up with a mathematical total. Like Aleister Crowley changed the spelling of his last name Crowley so that it would equal 666. Eric Schmidt, the CEO for Google, his name is 666. And I know why Newton Gingrich got divorced. Apparently they wanted to do the swingers thing, swap wives or whatever. And that's one of the telltales of these people into the beast religion, the mystery religion. So I thought, well, because of what he did, he has to be one of them. And I kept putting Newton Gingrich, and all the variations, and I couldn't get it. But for some reason, I just knew it. I don't know how I knew. And there's some other words I discovered. But anyways, I looked in Wikipedia, and his name's not Newton Gingrich. It's Newton McPherson. He was adopted. And McPherson was 666. So a lot of these people from this blue bloodline, this occultic bloodline, if you don't know this already, they had their names changed to hide their identity. And a lot of people who are part of these secret societies and that are senators and representative and even presidents, Fritz Springmeier has already proven that in his book, The Illuminati, the bloodline of the Illuminati. But, you know, most of the presidents are related to the king of Germany or Britain or that area. Just proving yet again that these bloodlines have been the royal family, the elites of the world, and they hide their identities and give themselves Christian last names or Protestant last names, whatever, so they can be senators, representatives, and these are family dynasties. If you look in the history journals of senators and representatives and presidents, you will find a repeat and repeat and repeat. How many Roosevelts? How many Bushes? Look up Fritz Springmeier's The Bloodlines of the Illuminati, and also the terminology, presidents are related, and you'll come across the information. It's verifiable. So were they really Christians, or were they crypto Jewish people or crypto people into this Kabbalah knowledge? And God forbid, are they really some kind of foreign DNA? Are there two fundamental DNAs on the planet? The lineage from Cain. Remember, Cain was the first born of Adam and Eve, so one way the story goes. And then they had a second child, Abel, and Cain slew Abel, being the first murderer, and Adam and Eve had a second child called Seth. So apparently the rest of us are descendants of Seth or descendants of Cain. And the Rosicrucian story is Samuel was a divine being, and Eve was made for him. So the Cain was actually half divine and half human. And then this Samuel abandoned Eve, and so God in his mercy and compassion created Adam for Eve, and they had a baby, which was Abel, who was human and human. This is in the Rosicrucian book. And so Cain, whose father abandoned him, was jealous of his brother Abel and slew him. Again, the first murderer. And then Adam and Eve had a second child, Seth. And apparently there are lineage of people on the planet from Cain, half divine and half human, the first murderer. And then the rest of us from human Eve and human Adam through Seth, we're all human and human. Anyways, that's what's in some of the mystery school books. So Dramantia, I've looked it up, that things like computer and Verichip, and a lot of other words, weirdly enough, equals 666. You can go on the internet, look up words that equal 666, or numerological calculators, and there's usually a list of them. Words like witchcraft and computer and Monsanto. A coincidence, you think? I think not. It's all magic. Even the corporate logos with the sun's rays and all the other symbolism and the pyramids. You think those are coincidences? Germantia was arithmetical when it consisted in applying to the Hebrew letters of a word the sense they bore as numbers, letters being used also as figures of the Hebrew as in the Greek. So apparently in the 13, 14, or 1500s, don't quite remember the exact date, but John Dee the magician, who was also said to be Shakespeare, but anyways, he and other people were involved with the kings and queens and maybe even the Vatican to revamp and redesign the English language, the Spanish language, the German language, the Italian language, the French language. All the languages were revamped to adjust the pronunciation and the spelling of words. They called it the beautifying of the languages. So what they were doing is they were revamping as civilization grew and became more civilized and advanced. They were making some words more potent and exact for the usages of magic, of Kabbalah, of witchcraft. Just some things I've learned along the way. Then the letters in a word being taken as numbers, added up, it was considered that another word, of which the letter added up came to the equal sum, might fairly be substituted by the arithmetical Germantia. So apparently words that total up to the similar amounts might be substituted for other words that equal the same amount. And the way the system works is pretty simple. A equals 6. This is one form, there are many. B, the second letter, is 2 times 6, 12. C is 3 times 6, 18, etc. 4 times 6, 5 times 6, and then that goes across to about 10 or 11 times, and then it drops down, and there's 2 different charts. So whatever number the letter is, multiply it times 6. So interestingly enough, in that following that frame, that thought process, what do you think the KKK is? The Ku Klux Klans. Weirdly enough, K is the 11th letter. It's 66. So KKK is 666666. Oh my. You think it's just a coincidence. Then the letters in a word added up. Figurative Germantia deduced mysterious interpretations from the shapes of letters used in sacred writings. Like I said before, what I'm trying to do is to just make people aware of these things. Like when I was watching one of those Super Bowl shows in the last year or two, and I could recognize the satanic rituals going on, the cameraman zoomed in on one of the aisleways, and you could see the sign, and it said A66. And because I know Germantia, A equals 6, I almost fell out of my chair. I go, I can't believe the cameraman just zoomed in on A66. And then there's B, and so they have different alphabet and then numbers. But A66, A is 6. It was 666. And even with The Simpsons and other things in TV programming, there's plenty of evidence on YouTube videos. They're playing these games with us all the time. Emmys, Grammys, other ceremonies, tunnel openings, Eurovision, which is like the American Idol over in Europe. In 2014, Conchita Wurst wins the contest. Conchita is a female part, Wurst is a male part. Wurst means sausage. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Face like Jesus, body and a woman in a silky dress, an androgynous being. All pictures of the devil are androgynous. Alright, back to the book. Thus, in Numbers X 35, I guess that would be in the Bible, Beth means the reversal of enemies. This kind of interpretation was known also by the name of Zurah. Architectonic Germantia constructed words from the numbers given by Scripture when describing the measurements of buildings as the ark or the temple. By Norticon, more words were developed from the letters of a word, as if they had consisted of so many abbreviations, or else first and last letters of words, or the first letters of successive words, were detached from their places and put side by side. So they're playing games with these letters for different magical purposes. By Therma, any word might be made to yield a mystery out of its anagram. An anagram, I believe, is when you can take letters of a word and change them around, and so they spell something else. Santa Claus, Santa, if you change the word around, the letters around, will spell Satan. Deviled, spelled backwards, is lived. And it's on and on and on. But Thermia, any word might be made to yield a mystery out of its anagram. These sacred anagrams were known as Zurup. By the same branch of the symbolic Kabbalah, three systems were furnished in accordance with which words might be transformed by the substitution of one letter for another. Alright, so I can find out where I was here. The first of these symbols, or systems, album, arranged the letters of the alphabet in 2 rows, one below the other. The second, Altbath, gave another couple of rows, and the third, Achbath, arranged them by pairs in 3 rows. So like I said, if you do go look up Germantia, you will find that the letters are laid out in different ways, and sum totals on the bottom. There are different systems. All the pairs in the first row being the numerical value 10, in the second row 100, in the third row 1,000. Any one of these forms might be consulted, and any letter in a word exchanged for another, standing either in album, albath, or achbath, immediately above it or below it, or on the right hand of it. So they're just describing how you use these different rows to interpret the codes, where A is 6, B is 12, C is 18. Some might be 11 across and then 11 more on the bottom for 22 letters in the alphabet. Some of them might be 8 and then 8 and then some more. For example, if you take 1111, 1111, and convert it to octic numbers, it equals 666, as in Steve Quayle's book I made a video on a long time ago. So all these little codes, just like on the back of the dollar bill, the eagle, which represents Mendes, the demon, with the 13 arrows and the 13 feathers and 13 stars in the shape of the Israeli flag, the Star of David above it, and other 13 stripes in the shield. So this would be Mendes, the devil, is representative of the eagle with all these 13s. You don't need to be a genius to put this stuff together. All right, back to the book. This was the symbolic Kabbalah, and the business of it was to extract, by any of the means allowed, the hidden meaning of the scriptures. The real Kabbalah was the doctrine in this way elucidated. It was theoretically explaining divine qualities, the 10 Sephiroth, the fourfold Kabbalistic worlds, the 32 footprints of wisdom, the 50 doors to prudence, Adam Kadmon, and as it was practical, explaining how to use such knowledge. Here we go. Why were we just discussing all of this? How to use such knowledge for the calling of spirits, the extinguishing of fires, the banishing of disease, and so forth. So if they had this magic and they could call forth spirits, extinguish fires, banishment of disease, and so forth, I suppose they could create disease, create fires, control demonic spirits, which King Solomon was famous for with his magic 6-pointed ring. The theoretical Kabbalah contained, it was said, by Christian students, many references to the Messiah. Its main points were the tree, 1, the chariot of Ezekiel, 2, the work of creation, 3, the Ancient of Days mentioned in Daniel, 4. They have this chart here, and I've been trying to understand the tree of life and the Sephiroth. And again, by my continued research, it's becoming a little more clearer, and I like to share it in my videos. But in essence, what they're saying is, let's say God, the Godhead, the infinite. Out of him shoots some rays, like my hand here. And these rays, think of them as thousands of rays. Even George Bush Sr. mentioned 1,000 points of light. A lot of these people into this mystery religion reference 1,000 points of life. These beams of light coming from the Supreme Being. And at the end of those beams of light are the angels. And from them, apparently, extend thousands and gazillions other beams of light. And one of those essences could be this tree. Another one of those essences could be me. So there are many different hierarchical levels. Squirrels, trees, rabbits, fish. Everything is emanating from the Creator. Everything is part of one living organism. I probably have it a little wrong, and if you know a little bit more than me and think you can explain it clearly, I'll be happy to get the comments. And I'm not preaching this stuff as gospel. I'm just showing what they believe, which I think should be important for the rest of us. So anyways, they have the crown where the essence all comes from. And strangely enough, it's a 6-pointed star. On the top, where everything comes from, the 6-pointed star, the 2 circles, the circle around that. And then it comes down to the other circle and the other circle. And then the 5-pointed star, the celestial sun. So on the left-hand side is feminine wisdom. On the right-hand side is masculine intelligence. That's why they have the androgynous being, the devil, the serpent, shown as androgynous, both masculine and feminine. Super celestial world, a pure white light, a source of life and dynamic power. Braya, the super celestial world, or the world of the spirit. The world of the spirit. And then Theroft, looks like a 5-pointed star with eyes and mouth and nose on it. Celestial sun, that's why they worship the sun. Like the all-seeing eye has rays of the sun. A lot of corporate logos have suns on them. And of course we all celebrate Sunday, which is actually the beginning of the week, which is supposed to represent Saturn, which is supposed to represent Satan. But they call it Sunday, worshiping the sun, which is also Saturn and Satan. Just saying, some of my limited understanding takes a while to grasp this stuff. And I'm certainly not trying to learn and use the Kabbalah. How many people out there would sell their souls for everything they could want, money and wealth and sex and everything, and not realizing that the real self, the spiritual self, they're selling their souls for a short period of satisfaction, which if you've seen the TV programs or some of the other stories, it's always a huge deception by the devil. So all this New Age propaganda that's promising people everything that they want, you can manifest it. You just have to deny Jesus, deny Christianity. And probably trying to destroy the Muslims' religion and other religions. So in my limited way, I'm trying to understand this stuff. So the tree, the chariot of Ezekiel, the work of creation, and the Ancient of Days mentioned in Daniel. It concerns us most with understanding the tree. The chariot of Ezekiel, or the Masa Merkabah. I've mentioned the Merkabah before. I'm going to mention it again because it seems to be important. But imagine 2 pyramids made out of stone. Just a small little version of the Great Pyramids. Complete pyramidal bottom and sides. And one is pointed up and the other one is pointed down. And you push them together so that they fit exactly within each other. But the 2 ends are sticking out on the top. The point is sticking out on the top. On the bottom, the point is on the bottom. The ends are on the sides. It winds up looking at it from a side view like a 6-pointed star. And I suspect looking at it from top down looks like a 6-pointed star. So it's 2 perfect pyramids plugged in together. And apparently they have magical properties, even that Barbara Marciniak, in her books about the Palladians, I've made videos on her books and I've talked about the Merkabah. She holds up the Merkabah when she goes into her trance and starts channeling some entities. In the beginning of her videos on YouTube, you can go look up Barbara Marciniak. Forget the name of the books. In my series, Freemasonry and Satanism, I've gone over a couple of her books, several videos, so you can watch them. But when she goes into her trance, she goes, "And I welcome the angels and the pixies and the Palladians and all these beings." And look what I'm talking about, spirit control. So anyways, the Merkabah is one of those devices. It seems to be coming up a lot, Barbara Marciniak and so many other places in my research. So I just made it my business to try to understand it a little bit more thoroughly. Was a description of the prefigurements concerning ceremonial and judicial law. The doctrine of creation in the book of Levenschmidt was a dissertation upon physics. The Ancient of Days treated of God and the Messiah in a way so mystical that Kabbalists generally declined to ascribe any meaning at all to the direct sense of the words employed. Of these things we need say no more, but of the Kabbalistic tree it will be a requisite to speak in more detail. It was an arrangement of the 10 Sephiroth, The word Sephiroth is derived by some rabbis from a word meaning to count, because they are counting of the divine excellence. So another way to think about it is dimensions. Remember I talk about the unseen world, the invisible reality, the spiritual beings? Apparently, there are other dimensions. Of course, we're on this physical planet Earth. We're 3 dimensions. Left, right, top, up, and bottom. 3 dimensions. So then you got a 4th dimension, 5th dimension. So apparently, just to understand it with this tree of life, the way I understand it, is you move up the dimensions, you become less physical and more spiritual, and even a higher essence, or a higher essence, or a higher essence, until you reach the top, the world of God, in the highest dimension there is. And so when you see some of these drawings and pictures, you'll see a circle and 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 a circle, like a labyrinth, and it's moving through the different dimensions. And apparently through magic, even if you leave your body and go visit these worlds, you can move through these different dimensions. And according to some of my research, Psychic Self-Defense and other books I've gone over, or books on remote viewing and other books on these topics, if you don't know what you're doing and you move, let's say you leave your body, because you are a spiritual being, and you're able to leave the physical body, put it in a trance, with a Merkaba or whatever, peyote, mescaline, whatever drug, ashkawashka from Peru, that a lot of people, like David Icke and others, people say they've gone down there and taken it, and they've seen this other dimension. So maybe it's fairly simple to see the next level up. And I've shown pictures of what people see. Max Egan said he even went to Peru and took ayahuasca. And he says in some of his videos that the other world is very real. Otherwise, it is considered an adaptation of the Greek word sphere, because it represents the spheres of the universe, which are successive emanations of the deity. So they're saying these other dimensions, all of them, are just successive emanations of one deity. And I'm not preaching this as my belief in reality. I'm telling you their philosophy, their belief on this natural magic. And apparently the ancient Jewish people, this was part of their culture. They were run out of countries everywhere they went for a couple thousand years, accused of some horrific things, and according to the Encyclopedia Judaica, their fundamental religious cultish belief was magic, the Kabbalah. And it got them into trouble, I suspect. And I believe we're going full circle. History repeats itself. Have you ever heard that? And I believe it might behoove us to wake up. They intend to destroy Christianity. In the 1920s, 1930s, when they had congressional hearings about communism, and the communists testified they were going to infiltrate all aspects of society. And remember, it was the Bolshevik communists that invaded Russia after World War I that proceeded to kill 25 to 100 million Russians, Christians and other good people, by the Bolshevik communist Jewish people to spread communism around the world. It's a huge deception going on, and it involves the Kabbalah. The symbols are everywhere. If you wonder about some of these rituals, like an Indiana Jones movie, if you want to see them, just watch some of the Emmys and Grammys and Super Bowl halftime shows, and you'll see the rituals. The tunnel opening over there in Switzerland. I'm stirring up something behind me. In the beginning was the Or Hain Sof, the eternal light, from whose brightness there descended a ray through the firstborn of God. So did you ever wonder about this religion? Adam Kadmon, and presently departing from its straight course, ran in a circle, and so formed the first of these Sephiroth, this tree of life with all these different dimensions, which were called the Kithri, or the crown, because superior to all the rest. Having formed this circle, the ray resumed its straight course till it ran again in a circle to produce the second of the 10 Sephiroth. Kochma, wisdom, because wisdom is the source of all. The same ray from the divine, the same ray of divine light, passed on, losing gradually as it became more distant from its holy source some of its power, and formed presently, in like manner, the third of the Sephiroth, called the Bina, or understanding, because understanding is the channel through which wisdom flows to things below, the origin of human knowledge. The fourth of these Sephiroth is called the Godala, or cheesed, greatness or goodness, because God, as being great and good, created all things. And here's a picture of the tree of life, or the Sephiroth, and there are many different shapes of Sephiroth. But think of them as different dimensions of emanations from some superior divine entity, through dividing itself to the feminine and the masculine, and evil forces and good forces. All is one, they want you to believe. Six-pointed star on the bottom, you notice? The six-pointed star on the Israeli flag. Put two pyramids together, look at them sideways, you'll see the six-pointed star with the Merkaba, which apparently had some magical properties to communicate with the other world. It's all about numbers and geometry. All about frequencies, vibrations that make up our world. Now you think about that, and I don't mean to keep on harping on HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, but they're infiltrating our entire world with these radio frequency, microwave frequencies, gigahertz frequencies, and other vibrations, and building designs and symbols. You think they're turning the whole thing into one big magic event? Opening up portals. They're going to allow certain demons into this world, which, by the way, is in the book of Revelations, in the Bible. You can't make this stuff up. So you got Theroth, celestial sun, the greatness, dividing itself into the Gibru, or the cheese, the blue and the red, the kingdom equilibrium, the second triad, the four celestial elements, the water, the hexal, above the firmament, the universal hide, the first matter, the abyss. So what is our world really made of? Is it a flat earth with a dome? Is it really a galaxy spiraling around? Does the Earth hurtle around the sun? If you do the calculations of the diameter of the sun they give us, you're going to come up with a speed of about 66,600 and something miles per hour. Isn't that weird? It's 666. You think that's a coincidence? Do the math. I played around, found the formula for the circumference of a circle, divided it by 365 days, by 24 hours a day, and I found out how fast the Earth is hurtling around the sun. 66.6 thousand miles an hour, and some odd numbers. And on the bottom they have the Astral Sun Foundation, the 4th to 9th Sephiroth. So this is the 4th to 9th Sephiroth. So they talked about the 4th of the Sephiroth is called the Goladath, cheese, greatness or goodness, because God, as being great and good, created all things. So I don't really believe it's God, Jesus' Father, or Jesus, or the Holy Spirit that's desiring the people over in Israel now calling themselves Jews, which many of them are not Hebrews, they're Khazarians, just people who follow the Jewish religion, the kingdom of Khazaria. The Khazars adopted the Jewish religion 1,000 plus or minus years ago, and they were the bulk of the people in Northern Europe who became the Jews, called Ashkenazi Jews. Nazi. And the real Jews, the Hebrews, were called Shepherdetic, shepherd Jews. So a lot of the Jewish people, the elites in Israel today, are Ashkenazi Jews. They're not really Hebrews. But they are seriously into this Kabbalah magic. And the Khazarian people were historically known as a very barbaric people, would even rent out their armies to fight other kings' battles. They were so barbaric. And they were descendants or neighbors to the Mongolians. And over in Mongolia, in some of those cities, there's some strange-looking modern cities going up. But the Mongolians, a lot of people know about Genghis Khan, who took his hordes all over China, the India, the Orient, and even into the Europe area, destroying and murdering everybody in a very vicious fashion, declaring that God had sent him to punish the people for their sins or inequities, whatever. So what kind of being was telling Genghis Khan to go slaughter everybody? What kind of being, Antichrist, is going to make that slaughter happen again? That's the question. History repeats itself. The fifth of Jabara, strength, because it is by strength that he maintains them, and because strength is the only source of justice in the world. Because strength is the only source of justice. So China's building up its military might. Australia just spent $26 billion, according to a press release yesterday, for some superior battleships. The United States is building all kinds of weapons. Meanwhile, building some kind of surveillance system here in the USA to keep the people enslaved or under control. Russia's declaring all kinds of new weapons. Britain, I'm sure. France, Italy, all over the world. Where do you think this is going to go? The sixth of the Sephiroth, Tiphareth, beauty and grace, unites the qualities of the preceding. The four last of the Sephiroth are successfully named Nizach, victory, Hod, honor, Josad, or Skaldum, the foundation or peace, and finally Malkuth, the kingdom. This is the religion of these people with the mystery religion. Each of the 10 has also a divine name, and their divine names, written in the same order, are Ijah, Jah, Jehovah. Wait a minute, I saw that and I said, isn't Jehovah the God of Israel, the Jehovah Witnesses? And I've been watching some videos, and it says here Jehovah is pronounced Elohim. Well, wait a minute, aren't the Elohim the fallen angels who mated with the human women and created the Nephilim? So these names, Jehovah's here. And I heard in one video that by the Theophist Society that everybody, I guess, into this mystery religion knows that Jehovah is Bacchus. So I'm listening to this person speaking, reading from Helena Blavatsky's book, The Secret Doctrine, Volume 3, which I ordered. I wanted to verify this was in there. but that Jehovah was really Bacchus, and I wanted to know who Bacchus was. You're not going to believe what happened. Yahoo image site, look up Bacchus. It's the god of drunkenness, and he has horns. You can't make this up. Jehovah pronounced Elohim. Elohim, Jehovah pronounced as usual. Lord Sabaoth, Jehovah Zabaoth. So they use Jehovah a lot. El Chai, the living God. Adoni, the Lord. And by these circles, our world is surrounded. By these circles, our world is surrounded. So these different dimensions, with all these different gods, by these circles, our world is surrounded and weakened in its passage through them, but able to bring down with its powers that are the character of each, divine light reaches us. So all the names of these different divine names or gods, they're all around our world, and apparently these people can, through the divine light, reach them. These Sephiroth, arranged in a particular manner, form the tree of the Kabbalist. They are also sometimes arranged in the form of a man, Adam Kadmon, according to the idea of the Neoplatonics, that the figure of the world was that of a man's body. In accordance with another view derived from the same school, things in this world were supposed to be gross images of things above. Matter was said by the Kabbalist to have been formed by the withdrawal of the divine ray, by the emanation of which from the first source it was produced. Everything created was created by an emanation from the source of all, and that which being most distant contains least of the divine essence is capable of gradual purification, so that even the evil spirits will in the course of time become holy and pure and be assimilated to the brightest of the emanations from the Ol Hasaphat. God, it was said, is all in all. Everything is part of the divine essence, with a growing and perceptive and reflective power, one or all, and by that which has one, all may be acquired. So by that which has one, all may be acquired. A stone may become a plant. A plant may become a beast. A beast may become a man. A man may become an angel. An angel become a creator. So a lot of the material by these channelers, Esther Hicks channeling Abraham, Lee Carroll channeling Cryon, Jane Roberts channeling Seth, and so many more. You can watch the videos on YouTube, but you need to have discernment. You need to be armed with a little bit of knowledge. You need to listen with your ear what they're saying and understand some of this stuff in the Kabbalah and the material going on in the world. So they have this other picture here. Light, fire, red, astral suns, another six-pointed star, just like the one on the Israeli flag. You think that's a coincidence? And that was the foundation, coming down into a box. The world of darkness, the abode of evil. So you don't think it exists. Man, the synthesis. And I don't teach this stuff for something I encourage people to learn. If you want to learn something, do what I've been doing. Go watch my videos on the books in the Bible. That's a good source to learn from. And it even says in here, it's divinely inspired and has powers or stuff in it. I believe it does. It says in the Bible, ask and ye shall receive, seek and ye shall find. But people need to know that this stuff exists. That these people into this witchcraft, magic, Kabbalah, controlling our world, are in communication with otherworldly beings, and they're using it for some kind of new global world order. They intend to depopulate the planet. They have to create chaos and anarchy to bring down the rule of law that George Bush Sr. talked about. That will be their law. They think they need to be the aristocrats of the world. And in the past, they have been. They were the kings and queens and dominated people, usually in a ruthless way. And they fought each other, killing off their own citizens. At what point do we wake up and become intelligent humans and fight this philosophy of natural magic system, or at least the manipulation of these people with evil forces to the detriment of the rest of us? The world of darkness, the evil abode of evil, man the synthesis, water, earth, nitrogen, air, fire, oxygen, a lot of this new age material. People know not what they do. That's a famous saying. When they get into this stuff and they practice yoga and meditation, do they really know what they're doing? The person who's teaching them, does he know what he's teaching? What kind of doors are they opening? This kind of belief, which was derived from the Alexandrian Platonist, led to that spiritual Kabbalism by which such Christians as Ronchalin and Agrippa profited. It connected them by a strong link with the divine essence, and they, feeling perhaps more distinctly than their neighbors that they were partakers of the divine nature, and might, by the striving after purity of soul and body, win their way to a state of spiritual happiness and power, cut themselves off from all communion with the sensuality that had become the scandal of the Church of Rome, and keenly perceived, as they expressed strongly, their sense of the degraded habits of the priest. It was in this way the Christian Kabbalist asserted in the labors of the Reformation. So it is admitted that the Vatican, and usually with its Jewish magician advisors and Kabbalists, kings and queens and princes, they all had these magicians, and they were corrupt, and they turned a lot of people away from the church, and some of them spun off to the Reformation, the Protestants, and a lot of the Jewish Jesuits and other people were involved with that. So apparently these people who become controllers always join both sides. And who winds up being the loser? It's generally the population who wind up getting slaughtered. And remember, this is just a conversation. Maybe people can learn a little bit more about this mystery religion. I prefer to stick with the biblical belief in Jesus and God, and have faith, because it looks like that's all you can really do. Try not to be intentionally hurting anybody else. And back to the book. Little more has to be said about their theory, and that relates to the four Kabbalistic worlds. These were placed in the four spaces between the upper Sephiroth. Between the first and second was placed Azaluth, the outflowing which contained the purest beings, the producers of the rest. So from this divine light came these beings, the Azaluth, and the outpouring of them which contained the purest beings were the producers of the rest. Between the second and third Sephiroth was the world of Braya, or the thrones containing spirits less pure, but still not material. So what do you believe? You believe there's reptilian aliens, gray aliens, Galactic Federation, Orions, Palladians, oranges, orbs? Or do you believe what's in this book and all these other books in the Bible? fallen angels. That's what it says in the Bible. The world had a great flood because of the corruption of the planet. The hybrid creatures between the fallen angels and humans in the Bible, Nephilim, Elohim. Apparently, Atlantis sank because of corruption and hybrid creatures before the Great Flood, according to some of the history books on Atlantis I have. And when Atlantis was sinking, they went to South America, the Middle East, Egypt. They built the pyramids. They brought their religion with them, and they continued to make hybrid creatures, which apparently horrified the Egyptians. A lot of this is in ancient history. So this world we're living in today, where they're trying to recreate this ancient past, some kind of hybrid creatures, and their so-called aliens are abducting humans and creating hybrid creatures and showing it to them. Are they doing the same thing again? They were classed into wheels, lightnings, lions, burning spirits, angels, children of God, cherubim, and their prince was called Metatron. So that's apparently one of the prince angels of the Jewish religions in the Talmud, Zohar, and their books. The world in the next interspace, called Jezerath, angels approached more nearly to a material form, and the fourth, Azulth, was made wholly material. So these different dimensions, it gets more material. And the higher up, the less dense it is. From this point, density increased till our world is reached. So Earth here, where I'm sitting right now, is the most dense world. Spirits, reached. Azalith is the abode of the Kalputh, or material spirits striving against God. That's what it says here on page 244. They travel through the air. Their bodies are as dense air, incorruptible, and they have the power to work in the material world. That's what it says in the Kabbalah. These beings have the power to work in the material world. With Keturah, Adam, Belial, Izuath, Anjaniah, these are names of angels, I suspect, Usali, Olgai, Timolia, Dominia, 4 captains. They fight in 2 armies under their chiefs, Zamai and Lilith. A lot of people have heard of Lilith. Their enemies are the angels, who contend against them with 2 armies, led by Metatron and Sandalaphon. Lilith is the begetter of the powers striving against light. The nature of man's soul, said Kabbalist, is threefold: vegetative, perceptive, and intellectual, each embracing each. It emanates from the upper Sephiroth, is composed of pure elements. For the 4 elements, either in their pure and spiritual or in their gross form, enter into all things. An expansive separates after death, so that the part returns each to its own place, but reunite to praise God on the Sabbaths and the new moons. With each soul are sent into the world a guardian and an accusing angel. So listen to this last sentence. With each soul are sent into the world a guardian and an accusing angel. Well, that's the end of that chapter. Alright, plugged in the charger. By what secret to have power over this line of communication with superior worlds is for the practical Kabbalist to discover. The secret consisted chiefly in the use of names. God, it was said, gave to all things their names. He could have given no name that was not mystically fit. Every such name, therefore, is a word containing divine power, and especially affecting that thing that person or spirit to which it belongs. So they have these a newly arranged table of the tarot, like tarot cards, and the Kabbalah. I'll just briefly hold it up. You can pause your computer and review it as long as you want. But it has tarot cards like the Empress, the Magician, the Hermit, Death, Temperance, the Demon, the Star, the Moon, Judgment, all this stuff with tarot cards. And symbols, bull, house, weapons, fish, egg. Then on this side it has letters 1 through 21 of the alphabet, Hebrew forms, letters, so a chart for these magic formulas and words that mean something. $500 ago this book was written. Things were going on. The scripture tells us that there are names written in heaven. Why, it was said, should they be written there if they be useless? Through the knowledge of such divine names, it is affirmed, Moses overcame the sorcerers of Egypt. Elias brought fire from heaven. Daniel closed the mouths of lions. But of all the names by which wonders can be wrought, the mirific word of words, here we come to the main thought of Reichlin's book, Mirific Word, to the central topic of the oratory of Cornelius, was the concealed name of God. The Shem Hammer Fascists. Whoever knows the true pronunciation of the name of Jehovah, the name from which all other divine names in the world sprang, as the branches from a tree, the name that binds, as the branches of a tree, the name that binds together the Sephiroth, all those dimensions, whoever has that in his mouth has the world in his mouth. So these mystery religions, these cults, these Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Kabbalists, Zionists, Knights of the Garter, Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta, Clubs of Rome, Bohemian Grove, all these groups, what do you think they're into? These satanic rituals, Emmys, Grammys, Super Bowl halftime shows, tunnel eloping over there in Switzerland, Shiva, Kali, the goddess of destruction, Empire State Building, a big projection. The rainbow colors all over buildings and dams after the Supreme Court announced that states could not prevent gay marriage. Intervene. A big projection of a goat, symbol for the devil, on the Hoover Dam. Conchita Wurst winning Eurovision. And much more. Jehovah's Witnesses. You think they chose that name? I made a video on that. That's part of the Illuminati, these mystery religion cults. They were at my door the other day. Gave me a little card or something, pamphlet. I should have it in my possession right now. We could look at it and probably make some discoveries. So they're talking about this magic word, the name of God. when it is spoken, angels are stirred by the wave of sound. So when you speak this magical name of God, it stirs angels. It rules all creatures, works all miracles. It commands all the inferior names of deity, which are borne by these several angels that in heaven govern the respective nations of the earth. The Jews, says it here on page 248, had a tradition that when David was on the point of fighting with Goliath, Jascabai, the giant's brother, tossed him up into the air and held a spear below, that he might fall upon the spear. So the giant's brother, David the giant, David and Goliath, he threw him up in the air and held a spear like this so he could fall on the spear. But Asbishai, when he saw that, pronounced the holy name, and David remained in the air till Jacobai's spear no longer threatened him. So they spoke the holy name of God, and David, who supposedly killed Goliath the giant, floated in the air, hovered in the air. They said also that the mirific name was among the secrets contained in the Holy of Holies, and that when any person, having entered that shrine of the temple, learnt the word of power, he was roared at as he came out by 2 brazen lions, or bayed by brazen dogs, and until through terror he lost recollection of it. So apparently anybody who went into the temple, learned the magic word, came out of the temple, and had brazen lions or dogs baying and roaring at him to such a degree, it frightened the wits out of him and he forgot the word. Some Jews anointed also by the fable of this nature for our Savior's miracles. They said that having been admitted within the Holy of Holies, and having learnt the sacred mystery, he wrote it down upon a tablet. So maybe they're trying to say this is how Jesus acquired his power. He managed to get out of the temple with the mirific word, the secret name of God. So is in this book, not what I'm trying to preach. But apparently they're saying the Messiah, Savior, cut open his thigh, and having put a tablet in the wound, closed the flesh over it by uttering the name of the wonder. So they're saying the Savior cut open his thigh, wrote the name on a tablet, stuck the tablet in his leg, said the mirific word to heal up his leg. So when he passed out of the temple, the roaring lions caused the secret to pass from his mind, but afterwards he had only to cut out the tablet from his thigh, and at the beginning of miracles heal instantly the wound of his own flesh by pronouncing the mirific word. I never heard of that before. Such Jewish details were, of course, rejected by the Christians, who accepted the essential principles of the Kabbalah. As the name of all power was a hidden name of God, so there were also names of great power, though limited, belonging to angels and evil spirits. To discover the names of the spirits by applying to the Hebrew text of Scripture, the symbolic Kabbalah, was to acquire some of the power they possessed. So if you could learn the name of the angels, you could acquire their power. Thus, it being said of the Sodomites that they were struck with blindness, the Hebrew word for blindness was translated into chedi, and the chedi word, but one of the symbolic processors, was made to yield the name of a bad angel, Shekaburi, which being written down was employed as a charm to cure opium, some kind of disease. The common mode of conjecture with these names of power was by the use of amulets, pieces of paper or parchment on which for certain purposes certain names were written. At his first entrance into the world, such an amulet, with the names Senoi, Sension, Semograth, upon it was slipped around the neck of a newborn child, so that the infant scarcely saw the light before it was collared by the genius of superstition. Another mode of conjecture consisted in the use not of the names, but of the Psalms of David. Whole volumes were written upon this use of the Psalms in the Bible. The first of them, written on deerskin, was supposed to help the birth of children. Others could, it was thought, be so written as to make those who carried them invisible. Others secured favors from princes. We're almost done, one more paragraph. Others extinguished fires. The transcription of a psalm for any purpose was no trifling work, because apart from the necessary care in the formation of letters, some having a mystical reason for being larger than others, it was necessary for the copyist, as soon as he had written down one line, to plunge it into a bath. Moreover, that the charm might be the work of a pure man, before beginning every new line of his manuscript, it was thought necessary that he should repeat the plunge. So they made these little mystical pieces of paper or charms with these names on them for magical, powerful purposes to control or obtain the power of angels or demons or what. So a little bit of knowledge about the Kabbalah and natural magic, if you wanted to know anything about it. It's not something I would encourage anybody to go study. I think it would be wrong and dangerous. What kind of temptation and greed would overcome somebody? What kind of control would the demons or beings have over people? Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting.